I call to order the July 21st, 2020 meeting of the Seward Planning and Zoning Commission, and this is a rescheduled special meeting. We canceled the one earlier in July and re-advertised for tonight because of the spike in COVID-19 cases. And any public hearing and testimony comments were to be submitted earlier today, and there are several people that will be called during public hearing. This is a virtual meeting. There will be no public comments in person, but you can watch the meeting on YouTube, and you can get that through the City of Seward's website under Council Watch Meetings, and then you can also listen to us on the radio or on GCI channel, cable channel 9. And this time I will ask Commissioner Swan to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Swan. That takes us to roll call, please.
DeMoss?
Here.
Ambrosiani? He is excused. I understand he'll be joining us.
He'll come on the line later, yes.
Charbonneau?
Here.
Hatfield? Commissioner Hatfield? Cease? Here. Swan? Here. And Chair Eklund?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, we are on Commissioner Hatfield. Is that you that just joined in? Okay. When Commissioner Hatfield and Ambrosiani, hopefully they speak up. So we're on item number 4 on our agenda, citizens' comments on any subject except those items scheduled for public hearing. And do we have anyone for the general topics public hearing section?
Yes, Ristine Casagranda asked to be called for the first public comment period.
Okay. The public comment time is limited to 3 minutes per speaker and 36 minutes total time for this agenda item.
Hello, this is Chrissy.
Hi, Rissy, this is Eric Kajelski with the City of Seward. I have you on speaker with the commission for the first public comment period.
Thank you. This is Rissy Casagranda. I live downtown in Seward city limits. I mostly wanted to speak in these comments in regards to who I see as a community hero. I had the opportunity to go out to Preacher's Pond today and visit the 40-plex that Elliott Jackson has built out there. And I know that the city has been trying to, as a government and staff and commissions and policymakers, trying to solve a seasonal issue that Seward has had for many, many years. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Elliott in his heroic move of helping solve this issue. I've always felt that solving a seasonal housing or a housing issue should not be the job of the government, and I think I've spoke on a couple different occasions how I felt that the government has, in an attempt to try to solve a housing issue, smothered small business and opportunities that come from small business by setting challenging policies and restricting development. And I feel that that's not in the best interest of Seward. Seward now has 40 new units. Each unit sleeps 4 persons. So what's Elliot Jackson has done for the community of Seward is he's filled a seasonal housing need gap for 160 people. These units are spacious, clean, and very well thought out. They're not located within city city limits. So I was just curious, the way I see it is I'm always looking at numbers because I have an accounting mind, and I'm always looking at tax base and, the money not that just comes to a small business owner when they're successful, but also the money that generates into the taxpayers' pool of monies as well. What Seward lost by not having the opportunity for somebody to come in and build a structure like this is about $800 a month in sales tax, which is equivalent to about $10,000 a year in sales tax that would be collected on those long-term rent. We also lost the opportunity to add to our sewer and water infrastructure, and it's my understanding that I've been told in the past that we have to pay such high rates as users because we don't have enough users to evenly spread that cost across the board.
Thank you, Rissy.
Thank
Could you wrap it up in a sentence or two?
Sure. I just mostly want to, that was already 3 minutes?
Yes.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so mostly just want to give a shout out to Elliot Jackson and hope that this is a gleaming example of what it can look like when we don't have rules and policies that restrict the opportunity for not just small business, but also our taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next comment, please. Is there anyone else signed in?
For the first comment period, no.
For the citizen comments on any subject other than those on public hearing? No.
Correct.
Okay. All right, that takes us to item number 5, approval of agenda and consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda and the consent agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Swan. Is there a second? Commissioner Charbonneau has a second. Any discussion on the agenda or consent agenda? Any additions, deletions, or changes? Commissioner Hatfield or Commissioner Ambrosiani, are you online and do you have any changes? No response, so we'll move on. Is there a roll call vote since we have some that aren't here in person? Could we have a roll call vote?
Sure, I'll take a roll call vote on the approval of the agenda. Commissioner Charbonneau.
Yes.
Swan.
Yes.
DeMoss.
Yes.
Cease.
Yes.
And Chair Eklund.
Yes. You want to call those ones out just in case they...
Oh, just in case they're there, sure,
Yeah.
yeah. And Commissioner Ambrosiani. And Commissioner Hatfield. Not on yet, but the agenda is passed and approved. And approved on the consent agenda today is the March 3rd, 2020 Planning and Zoning regular meeting minutes and the June 2nd, 2020 Planning and Zoning regular meeting minutes.
Thank you. That takes us to item 6, special reports and presentations. A, city administration report, please.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to give a brief update. I've been working with the other planners in the Burro. We've had 3 online meetings via Zoom. And the biggest topic, of course, is our seat at the Planning and Zoning Commission for the Burro. Marcus Mueller, which is the acting planner for the Burro.
Yep.
Sorry, I was like, wait, where's it go? But he is making a recommendation to Mayor Pierce to allow Seward to have the seat for the next 3 years and then have a year break. Every community would be on that type of layout. We're hoping that Mr. Pierce understands the need for Seward to have our seat for the 3 years. And we know that we'll have to do a rotation out at some point, but we need to make sure that we voice that quite often. I would like to get direction from the planning commission on whether or not you'd like a additional letter drafted to the mayor, just before he makes his decision, giving him the reasons why we believe that we should be on our seat this year and not be bumped by Soldotna. And then I just want to point out there that behind the chair is a sign for census. It is very important, and in these times, we do need to get as much out there so we can apply for grants, and that's all I have.
Is the mayor's decision, is that going to be made at the August 4th, well, his recommendation to the assembly for the ratification on the seat on August 4th,
Yes.
next week?
No, I take that back.
August 4th is 2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks, yes.
2 weeks?
2.5,
Okay,
I think
2
it
weeks, okay.
I was like, no, it's not next week.
And you're looking for direction from the commission on
Just-
whether or not you think we should write another letter? We've already sent
We've sent,
one.
yeah, the administration, the city administration has sent a letter, the mayor has sent a letter. We as a commission, you as a commission have not sent a letter.
Oh. Well, I think we should send a letter.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we have consensus on sending a letter
Yes.
from the Seward Planning Commission that we should be represented on the commission?
Perfect, we will do
Whoever
so.
that is, okay.
Thank you.
Let's see, are there any other reports, announcements, or presentations at this time? Anyone? Okay, that takes us to 7 public hearings. And we do have several items under public hearings tonight, and several people have either sent letters in that they want read into the record, or they want to be called. So our public hearing is limited comments to 5 minutes, and those who have, those who have made preparations will be contacted. Item A1, under unfinished business items requiring a public hearing, we have Resolution 2020-05, recommending Kenai Peninsula Borough approval of the Point Subdivision, creating 2 tracts, each located inside and outside Seward municipal boundaries, vacating lot lines, dedicating rights-of-way and utility easements located on Nash Road within the industrial zoning district. Staff report, please.
Yeah, thank you. This item is being brought back after postponement due to insufficient public noticing, particularly the public notice sign that is required to be displayed adjacent to the nearest public right-of-way was tucked back off the right-of-way quite a bit due to a misunderstanding. We subsequently contacted the applicant and discussed it with them. They placed the sign on an existing sign structure just off of Nash Road right-of-way 12 days prior to the 7/7 meeting that was postponed until today. So that sign has been displayed for a sufficient amount of time now. Staff also sent new public hearing notices to property owners located within 300 feet of the subject property. So currently the public notice requirement has been met. I'll just give a recap about the purpose of this plat into the record for those that are listening at home. The purpose of this plat is to vacate interior lot lines and create 2 tracts roughly proportional in size of approximately 23 acres and dedicate an access right-of-way. The location of it is it's at the head of the bay, property owned by Mr. Tim McDonald. This property, or these 2 proposed tracts would both be located within city limits and outside of city limits, and the portion located within city limits is zoned industrial, and the City of Seward zoning regulations, floodplain regulations, and building code regulations apply to that portion of the property that is located within city limits.
Thank you.
Yep.
At this time, is there anyone that has contacted us to provide public comment?
Mr. McDonald, is waiting for a phone call.
Okay. Could you please ask him to state his name and address for the record when you get him there?
Yep.
Hello, this is Tim.
Hi, this is Eric Kozlowski. You're on with the Seward P&Z Commission. Would you mind stating your full name and your address for us?
This is Tim McDonald, Mile 2 Nash Road, Seward, Alaska.
That was Mile 2 Nash Road, Seward, Alaska?
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. McDonald.
Yes, ma'am. I have a plat of the property in front of me. What can I answer any questions for you?
Okay, so you're on for questions.
Andy, time.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. McDonald? Do any commissioners on the line have a question for Mr. McDonald?
Not at this moment, I don't.
Ms. Kelly?
Okay, Mr. McDonald, at this time, there is no questions. If you'd like to stay on the line, we may have other public comments, and then we'll have a commission discussion. There could be a question coming up, but no, you can't stay on the line. Is there any other callers on this item?
No, there are
Okay.
no other callers.
So you could stay on the phone while we close the public comment period. Okay. No other public comment, so I will close the public comment on this resolution and bring it back to the commission for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-05.
Thank you, Commissioner Charbonneau. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Swan. Discussion. Commissioner Charbonneau, you want to start?
I don't have anything.
No questions? Commissioner Swan, any questions or comments?
Nope, looks straightforward to me.
I am really appreciating the older plats that came before this so that we can make the comparison. I really like that you can see the history of the land that way, and so thank you, staff, for adding those plats into the packet. Commissioner, or Mr. McDonald?
Yes, ma'am. I have just a short comment, if I may.
Sure.
What you're seeing, there was originally 8 different lots in this property, and we're dividing it by geographical features into 2 large lots with, for possible development on either one. And the dividing line is on the southeast bank of Sawmill Creek. We're following the bank up to Nash Road. And that entire creek is going with the lower portion because the lower portion has to have control of the creek for flood control. And so it's a meander line, but it's pretty close to the creek bank as far as the dividing line between the 2 properties.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any further comments from the commission? Seeing and hearing no one. Let's take a roll call vote on the, wait, did I close public, close public hearings? Okay.
All right,
Roll
I'll
call
take a
vote.
roll call vote on Resolution 2020-05. Hatfield.
Yes.
Swan.
Yes.
Cease.
Yes.
Charbonneau.
Yes.
Is Commissioner Ambrosiani present? I have to ask. Okay. DeMoss
Yes.
and Chair Eklund.
Yes.
Resolution 2020-05 is passed and approved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. We'll hang up with you now. Thanks.
Thank you.
That takes us to the next item under unfinished items. Number 2, Resolution 2020-06, recommending City Council approval of the rezoning of lots 2, 3, 4, 5, and the north half of Lot 6, Block 16, original town site of Seward, from multifamily residential R3 to Central Business District CB. Staff report, please.
Madam Chair, can I interrupt just 1 second?
Yes.
When we do call the applicant, we should give them the 5 minutes that they're allowed to speak if they want to.
Yes,
So we
yes.
just need to make that aware to them.
Yep.
Okay. This resolution was brought forward on June 2nd for public hearing, and staff requested a postponement to contact the other local property owners off of between the area of Jefferson and Adams on 5th Avenue to see if they would be in support of the entire area being rezoned to central business. So attached for the Commission's review and recommendation is the Seward City Council Resolution 2020-06, amending the zoning designation of lots 2, 3, 4, 5, and the north half of 6, Block 16, original town site Seward, from multifamily residential R3 to central CB district. This is coming to you in its original form because when we did the contact, which we sent a letter out to each of the owners, and then a subsequent call to the owners to explain the request and ask for support on that request. We had 2 owners who objected to the rezoning or being included in a new rezoning and objected to the original rezoning. We had 2 owners that were in support of the original rezoning and that would also be in support of being included in the larger group. On the other side of the street, on Block 17, where we had the rest of the owners, we had 3 owners that were contacted. They asked several questions and then did not make a yes or no determination. Therefore, because we were asking for support, we were considering that a no. And then we had one owner who did not want to participate, but didn't have any comment on the original. So that we did that for specifically for what staff recommended. Let's see here. I would like to read just the rest of the background, and then I will come back to the rest of our actions. The applicant submitted for a land use plan amendment, rezoning, and paid the requisite filing fee May 8th, 2020. The proposed area to be amended included 3 parcels consisting of approximately 0.31 acres. The applicant is requesting a rezone in order to bring lots into compliance with the future land use plan approved in the 2030 comprehensive plan, and to provide for future commercial type uses. Also in the application was a possibility for a communications tower. The Central Business District is intended to provide for an area of convenient, attractive, concentrated commercial development, primarily intended for retail, financial, entertainment, and professional services occurring within enclosed structures. Regulations applying to this zone are designed to encourage a compact group of business of the type which are mutually beneficial and located close enough to encourage walk-in trade. Okay. The case for this was publicly notified. We had public notice up since the original date. We sent out mailings to the 300-foot owners, adjacent owners, both for the July 7th and then after the July 7th meeting for this meeting. In all of those, that we did provide a email and phone number to contact us for comments and questions. Okay. In the first public comment period, staff missed a owner, and it happened to be a co-owner of one of the lots in question. Since that time, we have added additional steps for verification of the owners, where we individually look at each ownership within the KPB Burro data. And we are working on putting together a requirement that all owners sign on applications for future requests. In the previous meeting, we had public comment. Ms. Kopic, who is the owner or the co-owner of Lot 2, Block 16, she stated she was against any additional commercial use on this portion of Fifth Avenue, and that the character of the immediate area was historical and residential. She also brought up a concern that the procedure that was used in public noticing missed her, and that that has been rectified. Ms. Casagrande spoke in behalf of the rezoning for the purpose of allowing for commercial uses on the property and bringing the parcels into conformance with the land use plan. Let's see. I have written quite a bit of analysis here. I don't necessarily think that you want it all read. So I would like to just skip to our recommendations on this, if that is okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Based on the communication with the owners, community development staff does not recommend moving forward with the rezoning of all multifamily residential R3 parcels on Fifth Avenue between Jefferson and Adams Streets. Based on the opposition from Megan Kopic, co-owner of Lot 2 of the original zoning application, and conversation with our attorney that ownership should be greater than 50% before, if only one owner were to make a application. Staff recommends amending the rezoning application to remove Lot 2 from the original application, or the original resolution prior to discussing the rezone. Number 3, this is a valid application because it is attempting to bring lots into compliance with the land use plan. And those lots are also contiguous to the central business zoning district, which was mistaken in the agenda statement. Research done into the official zoning map based on questions about contiguous parcels. We found that the center lines of streets and alleys are where the zoning districts lie in most cases, and in this case, rather than jumping across alleys where we were saying that, where I was saying that this was not contiguous earlier. Number 4, approval of a rezone in this case will increase the inconsistency between the land use plan and the existing zoning by creating multiple small R3 sections between the central business zoning, instead of one contiguous section of R3 as it exists now. Approval of the rezoning would create the possibility where residences could be sandwiched in between more intense commercial uses. Staff recommends that the commission discuss points 4 and 5, which are the increased inconsistencies and the commercial uses sandwiching residential uses, prior to making a vote on this. In Seward City Code, section 15-10, or not dash, dot 115, the purpose of the zoning code, number 8, the purpose is to provide for an orderly, stable, public, residential, commercial, and industrial development. And it is our opinion that this, while it is a legal application, does not follow in that stable and orderly environment. So I am requesting that you actually have a discussion and tell us where to go on that.
Thank you. That's the end of your staff report?
Yes.
Okay. We have anybody wishing to speak during public comment time? I'll open public comment for this and to let you, I believe you have just phone calls or phone calls and letters?
For this, I have 2 phone calls,
Okay.
Christine Casagranda
Okay.
and Megan Kopic.
All right.
I will call Christine first.
Please let her know she has 5 minutes this time.
Yep.
Hello.
Hello, Christine. This is Eric Kozelski again.
Hi.
Could you state your name and your address for the commission?
Sure. I'll wait for the clock to start.
Okay. You'll have 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm watching this time so I can watch my time.
Okay, starting the
Okay.
clock now.
Okay.
So this is Ristine Casagranda in City Limits. I am actually the applicant for the application that you have before you again this evening. I just have to first state that I apologize. I kind of displayed some frustration towards staff because I was under the understanding that basically staff was going to do the same thing that I just did, including those other lots. So my understanding was that what you guys were going to see before you this evening was actually a resolution that had the lots that I had petitioned for, as well as the lots that the commission and administration had suggested. And what I understood is that staff was going to actually send out letters with that resolution of all those lots, and that at this meeting, those landowners could show up and say, yes, I want my lot to be included, no, I don't want my lot to be included. So I did not understand that that was the process it was going to take. And so I'd just like to hear from the rest of you commissioners if you guys understand the process that just happened, and if that process that just happened is per code, or are we kind of like navigating out into unknown lands where administration just kind of envelops onto someone else's application. And so if I could just have some clarification, I mean, what's done is done, but I just think for the future, if it's going to be this difficult for somebody to fill out an application, pay a fee, and then it's going to be this challenging for them to actually do what our code is encouraging us to do, which is to bring the lands and the properties into compliance with the future land use. You know, when you guys made that comprehensive plan, were you actually thinking, okay, so we want these 10 blocks to be commercial business one day, and we think that one day one person is going to apply for all 10 of these blocks and they're all going to go together? I don't think that was the intention. I don't think that's normally how it works, but I could be wrong. So if someone could also give me clarification on that as well. My understanding is you have an application process where people can apply, and slowly you start to bring all those lots into the future land use plan. I just can't imagine that you really think it's going to all happen at once. As far as those people that were all gung-ho for it, I think I have a pretty good idea of 2 of the people that would love to have theirs rezoned as commercial, and once my resolution or my rezone is approved, I will definitely personally reach out to them and help them understand the application process and encourage them to also come apply. And I assume staff did that when they called and said that they were in favor, or maybe staff plans on reaching back out to those same landowners and saying, you know, this is how it works. You are part of the future land use plan. You can bring your lots into commercial business districts. And so, you know, that's one of the points that I wanted to talk on. And the other point being the spot zoning. And I think Eric clarified this, and there's a better understanding now. But, you know, as far as a public right-of-way or an easement, they are not zoned. So to say that something isn't continuous because there's a right-of-way or an easement in between didn't really make sense. So there are continuous lots. There's commercial on the backside. There's commercial already on the block, a majority of the block. And as far as I can see, I don't have it pulled up, but as a real estate agent, I am aware that the one lady that wrote a letter that is objecting to changing the block to commercial business purchased this house after the future land use plan was already in place. So this house was purchased knowing that the future land use plan is to make this block commercial. I can understand why Megan, the other neighbor, may not want, she's been there forever, may not want to have commercial, and I fully understand that. But, you know, I think fact of the matter is, as I have explained to people across the street in the R2, if they don't change to commercial business, and their little houses ever collapse or need to be bulldozed, it looks like I have 7 seconds, that they will only be able to build a 10-foot wide home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
hang up?
please, call the other commenter.
Okay. The next is Megan Kopic.
Please dial the authorization code.
Hello, Megan.
I'm sorry. Hello?
Hello, this is Eric Kozlowski with the City of Seward. You're on with the Planning and Zoning Commission. Is this Megan Kopic?
It is.
Could you state where you live, and then we will give you 5 minutes for speaking on this subject.
Okay, my name is Megan Kopic. I'm the owner of the home at 337 Fifth Avenue in Seward.
Okay.
I first learned of the intention to rezone when I saw a sign on my new neighbor's fence, and it consisted of only 3 lots. And I attended that rezoning meeting and made it clear that I wasn't on board with the proposal, even though my property had been included in that original request to a second owner, an absent owner. During the course of that meeting, it kind of came out that maybe there was a cell phone tower that was going to be built there if they could get it rezoned. Now, even if I didn't have a property on this street, I would still not be in favor of rezoning. Not at this time. Certainly not for the purpose of erecting a cell tower in a downtown neighborhood, but really not rezoning at this time at all. These are very uncertain times, and every single home, my big argument personally is that every single home on that street falls under the city's own guidelines for historic property. Every single home on that street does have the ability to apply for and receive a historic designation and even get grants for restoration. And I think we all know Seward's historic charm is one of its largest selling points to tourists. And tourism, of course, provides the city with a lot of money, not just the government, but the businesses, the employees of those businesses. And then on top of that, yes, it is our own history and our heritage. It is our identity, and that is important. I was actually speaking with a tour guide about it, and he said that if Seward started destroying its character, he would send his people elsewhere, that he did have other options. I think it would cost not just the city government, but also city businesses more than it would make them. I really do. There's a daily rental directly across the street from where this tower sits. I haven't met or spoken with the owner. I don't even know who it is. But I can't imagine they'd be happy with the loss of income that could result from, zero lot line businesses, 3 stories high, crowding the place, or a cell phone tower. It's no secret that I'm working on actually a historically accurate restoration of my own home, and I intend to use that also as a daily rental until I retire, and then was kind of hoping to live in it through my final years once I retired. I don't want to lose the income myself from having something like that. And a lot of the other homes on the block are regular monthly rentals, and I don't think they would fare too well with big buildings or cell phone towers on the street. They'd probably lose some income too, so there's that. But I think the city is, the whole loose character is going to suffer. City's already taking a lot of painful press on the decision to demolish the Jesse Lee home. I think this is just action, really. All in all, I think it's a poor decision, potentially costly decision for everyone in Seward. And there are alternatives. If the cell tower is what this is really all about, there are alternatives. I know maybe I make it sound like I'm against the cell tower. I'm not. I'm really not. But if it must be downtown, there's an empty lot on 3rd between a church and an office building. There's empty lots on
2nd Avenue, down behind the university building. There's lots of outdoor way that haven't sold in years. And some people might appreciate selling them because they've been trying to. I know, I look at Zillow all the time. They're nice high, they're not anywhere near existing homes or historic areas. I just really don't think it's a good idea. I think it's a very poor choice at this point.
Thank you, Ms. Kopic. That was the timer going off for your 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other public comment regarding this topic?
We received a phone call yesterday from one of the people who did not originally answer, that they would be interested in the rezoning in the future. And Ms. Casagrande mentioned that in her 5 minutes as well.
Okay. And
that was Sam and Mark Clemens.
Chris.
Chris, sorry.
And they have property on the other side of 5th, on the east side?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And is that the only other public comment?
For this resolution, yes.
Okay. All right, I will close public comment at this time and bring it back to the commission for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we pass resolution 2020-06.
I will second that.
Motion by Swan, second by DeMoss. Commissioner Swan, did you want to start the discussion?
Yeah, just going on the comments that I'd like to make a motion that we strike lot 2 off the list of lots.
I would second that. Can we do that?
So we have a motion and a second on an amendment. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Swan?
No, just the comments that were made earlier that that particular owner did not want their property to be included in this.
Okay.
And I think it's in 3 different locations on the resolution. But just that, they didn't want it on there, and
Okay.
I agree with it.
Commissioner, or DeMoss, did you have, since you were the second, did you have any comment?
I guess my main comments would be a lot of what the applicant covered in her call, that it complies with the future land use.
Well, we're talking about the amendment
Oh,
primarily
yes,
until we
strike-
vote on the amendment.
On striking lot 2?
Yeah.
Then, yeah, I would just comment that based on the
Okay.
comments.
My question is on the maps on page 22 and 23. I'm unclear on which lot is lot 2.
Madam Chair, we've had a communication error. There is an additional person that had requested previously to speak.
Oh.
5 minutes.
My
Okay.
understanding that it was at the end of the meeting, but it was for this.
Okay, I will,
Back everything up.
Can we
Well-
answer the question that you just threw out really quick though?
No.
just so we can
no,
make sure-
we've got to have public comment.
Oh, okay.
And
Have to have the
I can,
public comment.
I've got it written down.
Well,
We'll
okay,
ask
good.
it again.
Good.
Sorry.
And
That's all.
we will suspend the discussion on the amendment, and we will ask for approval to relax the rules and go back to public comment. And we will open the public comment section again. And is this person going to be called?
Yes.
Thank you. Please make the phone call.
Hello.
Ms. Griswold, this is Eric Kozelski with the Seward Planning and Zoning. You're on with the commission. I apologize, I missed you.
Thank you. Let me kill my volume here. Boy, that was frustrating. You spent so much time on this and then you just blew right past. So, dear Planning Commission.
Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Dear Planning Commission, amending the land use plan from multifamily residential to central business district per City Council Ordinance 2006 is dead on arrival. Of the 3 property owners, only 2 desire commercial zoning, Casa Grande and Kenai. The Lot 2 property co-owner, Coppic, wrote a letter of objection. Lot 2 should not be included. With Lot 2 removed, the remaining .24 acreage is less than an acre, making this an illegal spot zone. In addition to small acreage, the Alaska Supreme Court ruled that to avoid spot zoning, the rezone must show benefits to the community, not just to the property owners. Improved communications may indeed be beneficial, but a tower here may not be justified. Alaska has installed high-speed fiber optic cables in the alleys downtown. Wi-Fi 6 and or 5G service might soon be available without need for another cell tower. Co-location on existing towers or placement on existing tall buildings might serve. Vague commercial uses are unknowable benefits. The Central Business District allows commercial satellite dishes, towers, poles, and antennas up to 16 feet in diameter and 75 feet high, outright. Despite best efforts to blend in, a new cell tower would entail replacing the historic landscaping with gravel and surrounding the property with a 6-foot fence. This is incompatible with this lovely landscaped neighborhood in an historic district and is opposed by the adjacent property owners and neighbors. In addition to the applicant's desire for a communication tower, there are 47 other outright commercial uses allowed in central business versus 12 outright uses in R3. If the parcels are rezoned, any of these other uses are allowed. Most would be a detriment to this neighborhood with negative impacts from parking, traffic safety, and aesthetics. The Supreme Court ruled that these impacts must also be considered. Another consideration is lot coverage. Lot coverage is allowed to increase from 40% in R3 to 100% in CB. Instead of a 20-foot front yard setback, none is required. There goes the landscaping that makes this area so beautiful and special. No off-street parking is required in CD, which puts more pressure on street parking. Dense downtown commercial use, the definition of the Central Business District, has the potential to destroy the charm of this historic residential neighborhood. Please vote no and recommend that council vote no on this resolution 2020-06. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Griswold.
May I ask, did you want to be called on the second public hearing, public comment section of this meeting?
Yes, so
At the end?
At the end.
Citizens' comments.
Citizens' comments. Okay,
Yeah,
that's where I
that's what
had
we
you
agreed to.
originally. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, I will close the public hearing. And we have on the floor the amendment to strike Lot 2. And the motion and second have spoken, and I have a question on the maps on pages 22 and 23. Could you please somehow, you don't have it on the wall, which of these, on 22 we have a Google Earth with a blue rectangle with 3 lots in it, and on 23 we have the zoning map with 1, 2, 3, 4 lots on the west side of 5th. So which ones are currently in this resolution, and which one is Lot 2?
Okay. In the aerial with the 3 lots in blue, that is the original request, including Lot 2. Lot 2 is the northernmost lot,
Okay.
right next to You Can Use It.
Okay.
In the zoning map, it looks, I used the wrong color. I should have used that blue, but there are 4 lots that are zoned R3, 4 parcels. Excuse me. And the southernmost parcel is what is registered as the Sweatman House, and it is
Was it included
it
in
was
the
not
original?
it was not included in the
Okay.
original.
So it's just,
So-
it's just then the 2 lots, and one of those lots must be lot 4 or 5 in the north half of lot 6?
Yes, the
large
larger
one?
one in this is
Okay,
4 or 5 in the north half of lot 6, owned by Peter Canava. Ristine Casagrande owns the one, just lot 3, and then Megan Kopic was in lot 2. So the 2 small ones, Megan Kopic's was the northernmost.
right, okay. Okay, so the amendment, is there any more further discussion on the amendment?
I have a couple questions if I can.
Kelly, is that you? Commissioner Hatfield?
Yes, Mr. Hatfield.
Go ahead.
Did the other owner of Lot 2 decide now that he does not want to be a part of that rezone?
No, but we cannot bring it forward because the other owner does not own more than 50% of the property.
Okay, so they don't have to agree to rezone their lot or not?
Correct.
We're just siding with one over the other?
Yeah, and that's why we've started looking at making both owners listed on a property on an application sign for that.
Okay. Okay. That's all I have for the amendment. I have more.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Hatfield. Any other comments on the amendment? Seeing and hearing no one, I will ask for a roll call vote on the amendment to delete lots 2 from the resolution.
Yeah, roll call vote on the amendment on the floor. Demas,
Yes.
Ambrosiani, Charbonneau.
I abstained. I'm back in the meeting, but I wasn't there for the conversation.
Oh, thank you. Good to know that you're here, though. I'll continue on, if that's all right with the chair.
Yes, please.
Okay. Charbonneau,
Yes.
Hatfield,
Yes.
Cease. Yes. Swan,
Yes.
and Chair Eklund.
Yes,
That amendment passes.
thank you. That takes us back to the main resolution. Maker of the motion, would you like to speak to the resolution as a whole?
I'll pass. Let somebody else
Okay,
start.
Commissioner DeMoss?
I think I covered.
Okay. Commissioner Hatfield, you had some comments regarding the resolution. We'll go to you first.
I'm a little bit, I guess I was a little bit confused as to a couple of things in the write-up. So, I thought because we're rezoning these to central business districts, which is supported by the future land use map, they don't have to have a set number of acreage included in that, do they?
Not as the code is written, no.
Okay, that was the part where I was confused. It sounded like removing lot 2 then made it not enough to rezone or something, but I think I just was unclear.
Is that, okay,
I did put in what the acreage would be without lot 2 as .24 acres instead of .31, which was what the original was. Acreage was in the application.
but it doesn't make it against the
So
code.
does the rezone include at least 1 acre, but it doesn't need to in this case, right?
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments, Commissioner Hatfield?
No, I think that was all I was curious about. Thank you.
Commissioner Cease, Commissioner Charbonneau, any comments or questions?
So if we pass this, then we'll be creating 2 standalone R3s on one side and 2 standalones on the other side.
Yes.
Actually,
Kind of, correct? Is that right with this map?
one on the north
Yeah.
and a large lot on the south.
Yeah, and then on the other side of the street, there's 2 others.
We're not doing anything with
I know, I'm just
those,
saying,
yeah.
it's gonna be 4 standalone in that area.
Right. That are all planned to become central business district per the comprehensive plan public hearing process and adoption.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Swan, go ahead.
One thing I just want to make a comment. We've had several people talk about the fact that a cell tower to be involved in this, and that's really not, we're just talking about zoning.
Correct.
Whether the fact that it's that's a whole nother issue that doesn't pertain to what we're doing today.
Correct.
I just wanted to make that clear to the public.
Yeah, and that's why we're keeping our conversation to the zoning. That's what this is about, is a zoning change. Now, when I read this, the statement in here that I'm not sure was clear, that Planner Jelski was clear, that was in error, that looking at some maps and some resolutions, he was under the belief that these weren't contiguous with CBD because he thought the alleyway, that you couldn't cross an alleyway or a street. That is not the case. There was a resolution that did not get adopted by council back in '91 that had that in it, but it was only a resolution. It was not an ordinance that was completely enacted. So this is contiguous with the property to the west across the alley.
Correct.
Okay, so the three ways that you can, that the code allows this to be rezoned is, and it's an or possibility, right? Or
Yes.
it is in the future land use map, it's contiguous, and it's over an acre.
So, or it's over an acre.
Or it's over an acre,
Not in.
right.
So
And,
the first two.
sorry, they're all ors. So this property is contiguous with the property to the west. Okay,
Yes.
let me see if I have any other questions. Nope. Oh. Okay. So is there any further discussion on the resolution? Planner Assistant Bacon, did you have a comment regarding the resolution?
No other commissioners have any comments before you vote. I did want to clarify a point that was made during citizens' comments, specifically referring to the notion that if the house collapses on one of these 30-foot lots, that it can't be rebuilt and that you could only build a 10-foot house. I don't believe that is an accurate statement because that specific situation is what a variance is for. There are remedies to property owners who are severely impacted by development requirements, and we've got there's other avenues for that. So
okay, thank you.
Everyone listening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on resolution 2020-06? Seeing and hearing none, let's take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote on resolution 2020-06.
As amended.
As amended. Sure. Swan?
Yes.
Ambrosiani?
Yeah,
Charbonneau?
No.
Abstain.
Okay, gotcha. Charbonneau was a no.
No.
Cease?
Yes.
Demas?
Yes.
Hatfield?
Yes.
And Chair Eklund.
Yes.
Resolution 2020-06 is passed and approved as amended.
That takes us down the agenda to item 8.1, I believe. No, 7B1, new business items requiring a public hearing. And we have one, Resolution 2020-08 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, granting a conditional use permit to John Wisel II to construct and operate 2 or more apartment units within a commercial building located at 213 5th Avenue in the Central Business District. Staff report, please.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, John Wisel II has applied for a conditional use permit from Seward Planning and Zoning Commission to construct and operate 2 or more apartments within a commercial building in the Central Business District. The land uses allowed table, Seward City Code section 15.10.226, allows for a dwelling apartment in a commercial building with 2 or more units by conditional use permit. This proposed mixed-use commercial building is to be located at 213 Fifth Avenue. Legal description of the property is the south 10 foot of lot 13, the north 25 foot of lot 14, block 9 of the original town site Seward. The parcel is 0.08 acres in size. The proposed new construction would be done in the footprint of the original building, which is 30 foot by 65 foot, and is located approximately at the south and east property line of the parcel. The parcel as it exists is currently vacant except for a foundation remnant, which is holding back the land on the 2 sides. The proposed mixed-use building would have first floor retail or office components, and second and third floors were currently planned to be dwelling or lodging units. The neighboring properties are all zoned central business. According to FEMA flood insurance rate map, this is entirely within Zone X. Utilities are available on the site. Seward City Code 15.10.215B requires a ratio of 2 parking spaces per multifamily dwelling unit or 1 space per lodging guest room. However, section 15.10.215A provides exemption for off-street parking in the central business and harbor commercial zones. The applicant has provided a parking drawing which has 4 parking spaces on it. It was not dimensioned and it did not have access for all 4 parking spots at one time. So updated parking plan has been requested by staff. The comprehensive plan promotes commercial development within the city of Seward in accordance with the community values. Section 2.2.11 of the comprehensive plan is the economic base is to promote infill development by encouraging and promoting construction on vacant sites in areas of the city which are already established. The strategic plan also, through rigorous implementation of the comprehensive and land use plans, desires to promote infill development by encouraging and promoting construction on vacant sites in already established areas of the city. And the focus on downtown revitalization efforts also deals with vacant and dilapidated buildings. We had several staff comments which were part of our recommended conditions, and we will go over that later. As far as public comment, we did a 300-foot buffer where the owners were notified within that 300-foot range through our mailing. The public notice was posted properly on the site, and all other public noticing requirements were complied. You were forwarded comments, but Mr. Kolstad and Mrs. Kolstad both requested that we read comments into the record. Recommended conditions on this.
Do we need to open public comment period? prior to the reading of those letters?
I wasn't going to read the letters yet.
Okay, okay.
But yes, we will need to open public comment. Okay, so our recommendations. Sorry. So the commission grant a conditional use permit with the recommendations, and I will read those. To operate or construct and operate a commercial mixed-use building with 2 or more apartments located at 213 Fifth Avenue, Central Business District. Our recommended conditions are as follows. The applicant shall be required to replat the property in accordance with Seward City Code Section 12.10.030 prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. The applicant shall furnish certified copies of the final plat. Our preliminary plat shall be submitted prior to issuance of a building permit. The existing stair is a remnant of a non-conforming structure and must be reconstructed out of the right-of-way with the new construction of the building. Section 15.10.315 F2, dealing with non-conforming construction. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall submit a dimension site plan which identifies 4 on-site parking spaces for residential units and the vehicle ingress and egress route. The applicant shall also identify delivery access and egress for service vehicles. Number 4, all construction shall meet the current International Building Code and International Fire Code prior to issuance of a building permit. Structural and architectural stamped engineered drawings shall be approved by the building official. Number 5, the applicant shall work with the fire department on ensuring adequate life safety systems are integrated into the proposed structure prior to the issuance of a building permit. Sprinkler alarm plans, if required for the use must be approved by the building official. Number 6, the applicant shall coordinate with Public Works and obtain a right-of-way permit prior to any work in the right-of-way. The applicant shall continue to work with staff throughout the building process to address and accomplish any required upgrades to public utilities if needed. 7, the applicant shall start a job order with the electric department and work with their staff on connection of services. 8, per City Seward Code, Section 15.10.325.f, an approved CUP shall lapse 6 months from the date of approval if the use for which the permit was issued has not been implemented or a building permit obtained. Commission may grant a 6-month extension upon finding that circumstances have not changed sufficiently since the date of initial permit approval. 9, the modification of the final approval of a conditional use permit may, upon application by the permittee, be modified by the Planning and Zoning Commission. A, when changed conditions cause the conditional use to no longer conform to the standards of its approval. B, to implement a different development plan conforming to the standards for its approval. Or C, modification of a plan shall be subject to public hearing and filing fee set by City Council resolution. And that that ends the staff report.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open public hearing on this item. Is there anyone wishing to address the commission on this item?
Yes, I have a phone call from John Wisel.
Okay, he would be the applicant, and we'll
He would be
hear from
the
him
applicant.
first.
please dial the authorization code.
Hello, this is Eric Kozelski. You're on with the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward. Could you state your name and address for us, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak on your proposal?
Yeah, this is John Wisel. My address is 31851 Herman Layer Road. Yeah.
Okay, do you have comments on your conditional use permit, sir?
Not too much other than we have a concept design of what we have going in there for a lower retail space and upper unit. Just a concept drawing now. Then long sought after, and believe we can do it in a timely manner. We've had some inclination or listened to feedback of what people want in town for some available units to have a place to stay. So that's one theory we're looking at. And then we've had some inquiries on the downstairs retail space from acupuncturists, massage therapists, like a joint co-op type area. So we've had pretty good feedback, and I think it's a good location, and yeah, we've got a lot into it. That pretty much wraps it up for what my comments would be is, yeah, we've had a lot of interest, and yeah, we look forward to getting it done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next comments, please.
You were forwarded comments from Kevin Lane. He asked not to have those read. Mr. Mark Kalstad sent in 2 letters to be read into the minutes, into the meeting. Go ahead and start. Dear Eric, the Seward Planning and Zoning
Could you
Commission.
state his address? New Seward Hotel?
The Seward Hotel. Not
That's
sure
good
the address on that.
221.
221
Fifth Avenue.
Fifth Avenue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dear Eric and the Seward Planning and Zoning Commission, I am writing to oppose Resolution 2020-08. I do not want to see a building built obstructing any more of my view than the previous building located at 213 Fifth Avenue, also known as the video store. I believe the posting of the property notifying the public is deceptive in stating apartment, not apartments. This discrepancy was brought to the attention of Kate, Stephen, and Clinton earlier this week. A reposting of the property should be mandatory. Parking is already a problem for 5th Street between Adams and Washington. Central business parking requirements are predicated on the fact that the business is closed in the evening, making parking spaces available to hotels and restaurants located in these areas. Mr. Wisel's request only adds to the shortage of parking for the existing hotels and restaurants located in this area. Construction access is only available from the alley and 30 foot directly in front of Mr. Wisel's property. And neither Hotel Seward or the eatery, cookery intend to grant him permission to access their properties at any time during the construction process. In addition, the alley is heavily used by delivery vehicles, garbage service, fuel trucks for the restaurants and businesses adjacent, and anything other than very limited disruption of this traffic will be damaging to these businesses. Mr. Wisel has not acted with the best interests of Seward in relation to adhering to timelines and promises made in relation to safety, beautification, demolition of the video store building. The property at best remains unsightly without the efforts of the Seward Fire and Building Departments. Would remain unsightly danger to Seward. Currently, the demolition, damaged fuel supply lines to a buried fuel tank, deteriorating flooring basements, and remain a danger. Mr. Wisel's performance thus far should be enough to deny this application. I urge you not to approve Resolution 2020-8 respecting the parking needs of the existing businesses in the area. His second letter, I'm writing again to oppose 2020-08, or at least ask to have the public notice period extended for another 30 days. Most of you know me, I'm not active in Seward in many of the activities of Seward, but I have been at 221 5th Avenue 24 hours a day, 7 days a week since February with few exceptions. Until an hour ago, I was unaware of the extent of the proposed development, and I am his closest neighbor and very concerned. I mentioned in my prior letter that the posting was deceptive, stating apartment. I am not on the email list, so my only public notice was the sign posting. I was made aware that there is a 132-page posting that I should have been aware of, but wasn't. If I wasn't aware of the extent and the possible negative impact on my property of Mr. Wisel's development, I can assure you the Best Western owners are not Gene Thorne, Ann, and Tony Simienski, Randy Wells, or any of the surrounding property owners, with maybe the exception of Dave Crane, are not. I added this to the email, so if it is redundant, I apologize. My request is also COVID-19 related. Interaction between neighbors, city offices, and public have been dramatically interrupted, also justifying my request for additional posting time and time to reach out to those closely impacted. Note, I have personally told Mr. Wisel his development would negatively affect my property value. His application clearly says it will not. This is a fact he is aware of. I would like the next 30 days to personally notify the surrounding property owners to make them aware of the 132-page posting and its possible impact on the properties. I also briefly mentioned the damaged fuel supply line to the underground fuel tank on Mr. Wisel's property. I believe during this time the city should require Mr. Wisel to perform a Phase 1 environmental inspection of the property to protect the city and we surrounding property owners from possible dangerous underground fuel leak. Thank you again for your time, and I urge you not to approve this resolution at this time.
Thank you. And we'll move on to the next comment.
The next comment is from Mary Kolstad, owner of 212 5th Avenue residential property, owner of 217 and 221 Hotel Seward, or 5th Avenue Hotel Seward, owner of 1104 home. Okay. As a multiple property owner that is negatively affected by this resolution, I opposed to granting conditional use permit and question Mr. Wisel's proposed plan. I am also opposed to the construction of a 3-story building, and I am requesting a height restriction on future construction. In my dealing with him, I have found him inconsistent and provides inaccurate information. He has owned the property for almost 2 years and has had a history of non-compliance and not considering the best interests of the Seward community. As my husband stated, I believe it is difficult for an average person to review a 132-page document to find the pages that clarify his request. We originally thought this was one apartment and the building was within its original footprint and height. Fortunately, it was brought to our attention today, and I am thankful to respond to the correct information. An immediate example is the posting on the property. The posting does not represent his entire plan to the public. It is inconsistent with his application, and the commission could completely deny his proposal on a basis listed or at least postponed until he follows the requirement of accurately posting to the public. Please review the sign Mr. Wisel posted to the public to construct and operate a multi-use commercial building with apartment unit, not units as requested, nor that the building would now be 3 stories, with a possible 6 units. This posting represents 1 unit, which is not a basis of proposed request, which states, found only on page 28, granting a conditional use permit to John Wisel II to construct and operate 2 or more apartment units within a commercial building located at 5th Avenue in the Central Business District. He also did not state he intends to build a 3-story building, which does impact the property value of the adjoining property, Hotel Seward. Mr. Wisel and I have had clear discussions on this matter, and it was clarified to him that any building that was constructed higher than the original building would negatively affect the Hotel Seward property value and affect the existing view that supports our income. He is aware of this, yet states there are no negative effects, again being deceptive when he is aware that we would be harmed by this approval. Central Business District is intended to provide for an area of convenient, attractive, concentrated commercial development, primarily intended for retail, financial, entertainment, and professional services occurring within enclosed structures. Regulations applying to this zone are designed to encourage a compact group of business of the type which are mutually beneficial and located close enough together to encourage walk-in trade. Central Business District regulations designed to encourage business types which are mutually beneficial and encourage walk-in trade. The proposal to add apartments as daily rentals to a building site that did not have them previously would be a negative impact on the 2 large hotels and small rentals that already exist. His proposal, I understand, is beneficial to his needs, but not necessarily to the needs of Seward community. There is an abundance of nightly rentals and hotel rooms in the Seward market. With COVID-19, the hospitality industry has been hit hard. To approve more nightly rental would negatively impact the existing industries even more. I would support development of this site that was in the best interest of the community needs. This is clearly not one. In review of his plan for a 3-story building, I do not see a 3rd floor layout. The first and second appear to be the same layout, which indicates 4 apartments. The side design shows 6 doors, indicating 6 possible apartments. His plans only show windows in the front. I understand he's restricted from having windows on either side due to setbacks. Can you review if he could have sleeping quarters without windows? Along with that, the drawing for parking does not indicate he has required length or width per space. If you review the drawing, there are other details missing as well. It's not clear if he intends to build on the property line to the north to access his required stairwells. He's already built on the property line to the south. Another consideration is the required commercial dumpster pickup, which would affect his parking ability, which then brings a concern to the street parking that is already strained with the existing business use. I am in support of a commercial building being built to code with height restrictions as to not negatively impact the existing property in consideration to the commercial needs of the community.
That'll be all. Thank you. Is there anyone else that has submitted comments to be read into the public hearing on this item?
We do not have any.
Thank you. All right, I will close public hearing on Resolution 2020-08 and bring it back to the Commission for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-08.
I'll second that.
Motion by Charbonneau, second by Swan. Commissioner Charbonneau?
Yeah, I just had some questions about this parking drawing here.
Yeah.
And I heard there was another one that potentially was going to be sent in, or they were working on it.
We requested updated plans for not only the parking but also the building, because as pointed out, the concept plan was lacking. It did have office space at the bottom floor, and the 2nd and 3rd floors were supposed to be apartment, possibly lodging rooms.
Commissioner Swan, did you have any follow-up?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to request this come up in the future. I'm not sure what language I'm using here.
Postpone it?
Postpone it because we're looking at two or more apartments. We cannot make a decision if we don't know what it is. These plans are not specific enough. And the parking, if I recall, you cannot have parking end to end. He only has, right now, there's only 2 parking places offered. So it's not 4, it's only 2. And the other concerns that are brought up, but I don't think this is prepared properly for a CUP for us at this time. And I just as soon postpone it right now. Well, I'm sorry.
Do you want to
Not
make
right
that
now.
motion? Okay.
No.
Commissioner Cease?
I think we should all have the opportunity to make sure other points are.
But you're looking towards a postponement till brought back by staff?
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Cease?
Other businesses on Fifth Avenue have parking on the street. Now, why can't he get 2 parking spots on the street to make up, I mean, the pictures show cars parking on the street.
In
So-
the past, our past practice has been that we require people who have designated spaces as apartments or employee housing or like we
Or
had.
nightly.
Or
nightly.
Or nightly, we've had them, like Sea Salt wanted to put apartments above and we asked them to find additional parking. Edgewater Hotel leased or bought a lot up here on Fifth for extra parking. And this design here, you can't park 4 cars like that.
No,
You
do
can't
that.
park like that, so. Commissioner DeMoss, you have anything? Commissioner Hatfield, Commissioner Ambrosiani?
I have a quick question.
I'll come back to you, Liz.
Can somebody remind me, if it's apartments, do they need 2 parking spots per apartment? And then if it's nightly, do they only need 1? Or do I have that backwards?
Well, that's a good question. I'd like to know if it is apartments, dwelling, or lodging.
And what the size of it would be.
Correct.
Yeah.
Square footage.
Yeah,
So to
go
answer
ahead.
your
Okay.
question,
You wanna-
apartments, full-size apartments need 2 parking places per unit. However, if they're small units,
They're at 1.
they're 1.
So we
per
need
unit.
square footage.
And quite commonly, we have allowed for nightly to go down to 0.6% per room, which we did with a couple different companies.
0.6%.
So what's the cutoff for square footage for the
Well,
apartment to only be 1
percent.
parking spot?
Those are the under 500.
Under 500 square feet. I think we have many people talking at the same time. We'll have to keep it down to 1 at a time. I'm sorry as well. And Commissioner Hatfield, did you have any more questions on that?
Are there parking spots required for retail shops? You were saying you wanted retail shops on the lower level and then 4 apartments as well. Do we require retail parking as well?
Go ahead, Eric.
In this case, this is a central business district, and that would be the on-street parking that is available.
Commissioner DeMoss?
I agree with postponing with Commissioner Swan. With postponing, we need to find out square footage specifically on the apartments, the intent of nightly or monthly lodging.
Just a minute, Eric, Commissioner Moss, whoever is on this call, we're getting all your background noise.
He's mute.
So if you mute until you're called on, and I will get to you, Commissioner Ambrosiani, for your comments as soon as Commissioner DeMoss's have been answered.
So this was written as apartments, and the resolution was written specifically based on the land use code definition of apartments of 2 or more in a commercial building. In his application, Mr. Wisel identified that he wanted to do 4 units, 2 on the second floor and 2 on the 3rd floor for the residential or lodging use. And both cases were potentials because he is still on the concept level.
Commissioner DeMoss, do you have any further?
And then access for the parking, I think that needs to be, the parking dimensions, all of that just needs to be definitely.
Garbage.
Yeah.
Commissioner Ambrosiani, do you have any questions or discussion?
I also agree with postponing it. But did the landowners nearby, did they receive notice? And how come they're saying they didn't? And then what's the 100+ page document?
That's the whole,
that they didn't get?
that's the whole packet. The whole packet is 132 if you count the title page or the front cover. And so they had to find their way to this item in there. Now, I did have a question because someone said that they did not receive notice, so I just want to make sure that everybody did get sent a notice letter.
We sent out 39 different notice letters on the area, and I have a list. I just printed out a short list because this came in later in the day.
Okay, great. Commissioner Ambrosiani, is that your last question for now?
Just the one more. Is there a way to look into the fuel lake issue that was brought up?
Commissioner Ambrosiani, Community Development Director Wild said she is looking into that and to what would have to be done if there would need to be an environmental study assessment on it or not. Commissioner DeMoss, you have a follow-up?
If we're going to postpone it, I think we should ask them to repost with more specific apartments instead of just retail space and apartment, because I agree that I find that misleading.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. Are apartment, dwelling, and lodging interchangeable? Because he's got the word dwelling and lodging, and I agree that the sign, if it just said apartment, was misleading. It should have been plural based on his application, but is apartment the right term?
We were looking at apartments as the most intense use, but then if we want to go with lodging, then we can do that.
May I add something to that too? When you look at our land uses allowed table, what triggers the requirement of that somebody has to turn in a conditional use permit? I look down, okay, we'll find the most similar use, and that is dwelling, comma, apartment in a commercial building, 2 or more units.
Okay.
If it was just one apartment unit in a commercial building, outright with the building
Okay.
permit. But since there are 2 or more units specified, applicants got to
So
turn in
that's where that came
CUP.
from.
That's how it gets described in the title and on the sign. So-
Commissioner Swan?
I have one other suggestion, I kind of understand where a lot of this is he's still in the conceptual state. And in the conceptual state, I don't think it's appropriate to be asking for a CUP. I think he should be requesting to sit down with us during a work session so that he would have a better idea of what he's up against if he's going to build there. But I don't think he's prepared, from what I've heard and what I'm reading here, prepared for a CUP.
Commissioner Swan, we have worked with Mr. Wisel for over a year now. When he first proposed this concept, we did walk him through the CUP process. And in this process right now, we have asked for additional information. We always get the concept, we can't get the, he wants approval to do something, but we can't give him that approval without him telling us what he's doing.
Correct.
And we've tried, so it is something that our office has been trying to work with him on.
Okay, well, if he hears it from me, because right now he's not going to get an approval, we're not going to take it forward without an absolute what he's doing. I mean, he doesn't have to have finished plans, but he certainly has to have complete conceptual plans that aren't going to change. Because if he changes the plans, then we're right back here again.
Correct.
Yeah, and my 3 reasons to ask for a postponement until a more complete more complete plan is in place and brought back by staff when they determine that is, number one, the posting sign is misleading, the fuel leak and the possible environmental impact, and his plan shows the steps still out in the public right of way. And I know that that's stated somewhere in here that he needs to take that out, but I want to see a plan come back that doesn't have that. In the window placement, in the 6 doors on the side, it's just too hard for me to get a concept of what this would be in that area, and based on our code, I would agree with the postponement. So, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we postpone this
I'll second it.
resolution.
Until,
Can we do a date uncertain? Because
well, till brought back by staff. So
Okay,
when you
perfect.
feel
Thank you.
that it's met the questions that we've had, you can bring it back to us. Is that good enough for you, Mr. Swan?
Those were my exact words.
Okay. And Charbonneau, Mr. Charbonneau, you second?
I'll second that.
Okay. So, the roll call on the motion to postpone Resolution 2020-08 until brought back by staff.
Yes, roll call vote on that amendment. Commissioner Swan?
No, it's not an amendment, it is a postponement.
Oh, I'm sorry, I totally misspoke. Yeah.
That's okay.
We're doing a roll call vote on the postponement of this agenda item.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Commissioner Swan?
Yes.
Charbonneau?
Yes.
Cease.
Yes.
Ambrosiani?
Yes.
Hatfield?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
And Chair Eklund?
Yes.
The motion to postpone is passed and approved.
Thank you. And I am back on the agenda. We do not have any item 8, unfinished business. Under 9, new business A, we have Resolution 2020-09 recommending City Council enact a 6-month moratorium on the placement of communication towers or until such time as design and development standards can be adopted into code. Staff report, please.
Resolution 2020-09 recommending City Council enact a 6-month moratorium. Could you please mute your phone?
Resolution 2020-09, recommending City Council enact a 6-month moratorium.
Commissioner Ambrosiani and Commissioner Hatfield, I believe you're the only 2 online. Could you please mute your phone at the moment? We're getting your GCI or YouTube feedback. Thank you. Go ahead with the report.
Or until such time as design and development standards can be adopted into code. Since 2015, the Planning and Zoning Commission annual priorities have included community need for discussion and education on the design and placement of communication towers within city limits. In late 2019 and early 2020, the Community Development Department began hearing from multiple parties regarding the placement of new communication towers in the original town site on both privately owned properties and lands owned by the city. In response to the proposals, members of the public have requested code changes to regulate the development of communication towers. On June 16, 2020, the Planning and Zoning Commission held a public work session to discuss the need for creating more comprehensive design and development standards. At that work session, Commission discussed existing telecommunication structures and reviewed an example ordinance from a neighboring city in the Kenai Peninsula. Council enact a 6-month moratorium on the placement of any new communication towers or until such time as staff can bring forward an ordinance for consideration and recommendation to the council for enactment. This moratorium would not apply to the co-location of communication equipment on existing infrastructure, nor would it prevent maintenance or upgrades to existing towers. Communication tower placement is regulated by Title 15 of the Seward Municipal Code, Planning and Land Use Regulations. There are currently no specific definition for communication tower in the Seward City Code. The placement of communication towers is specified in Table 15.10.226, the land uses allowed table. Communication towers 75 feet and under are currently allowed outright in the auto commercial, harbor commercial, central business, industrial, resource management, and institutional zoning districts. Communication towers greater than 75 feet in height are allowed by conditional use permit in the industrial, resource management, and institutional zoning districts. Persons or entities seeking to erect new communication towers must comply with all city building codes and development regulations. Consensus at the June 16th P&Z work session was to require a conditional use permit for all new communication tower installations so that the commission can review individual site characteristics. The intent of the site review would be in alignment with the purpose of the Title 15 as specified in 15.01.010C in providing orderly development in the community, promote safety and public order, protect the public health and general welfare of its citizens of the community. Further, the Commission recommended reviewing and adopting an ordinance like that which is in effect in the city of Kenai in order to research and bring forward such an ordinance, as well as to hold work sessions, hearings on the enactment of the ordinance. The Commission recommended bringing forward a resolution recommending a 6-month moratorium on the placement of any new towers. The 6-month time period was deemed reasonable time to craft code language and allow for the public process while not placing an undue burden and delay on the development of new communication infrastructure in the city, which is deemed desirable and important for the community. This resolution was to be heard on the July 7th, 2020 Planning and Zoning meeting, which had to be canceled due to COVID-19 cases. In the meantime, city staff continued working on a draft ordinance and gathering information from communication industry representatives. The Planning and Zoning Commission also conducted a second work session on July 21st, 2020, that's today, this evening, to discuss communication towers and review a draft ordinance. It has come to the conclusion of staff that a new communication tower ordinance can likely be passed within a reasonable time frame so as not to necessitate a council-enacted moratorium. Therefore, our recommendation is to deny Resolution 2020-09 recommending City Council enact a 6-month moratorium on the placement of communication towers or until such time as design and development standards can be adopted into code. We have been in contact with our city attorney, and their recommendation was to pass a resolution to review any incoming applications for cell towers under the code that we expect to have ready in the near future. That ends our staff report.
Thank you. This does not require public hearing, so I'm going to bring it back to the commission for a motion to get it on the floor for discussion. Do we have a motion in order to discuss?
I will make a motion that we pass resolution 2020-08. 9, excuse me.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Motion by Swan, second by Charbonneau. Okay, Commissioner Swan, start off.
I guess I'd like one of the two items to occur. Either we go ahead and move this forward and have a 6-month moratorium, or we follow administration's advice and put something in place so that we have a review process before how we go in. I'm not sure exactly how that would be processed.
Are you recommending
I'm not.
one or
just
both
opening
of
it.
those?
I am just recommending that one of the two be done rather than nothing.
Commissioner Charbonneau?
I agree with Tom. So we need to put something forward so that we can have time to take a look and set things forward in place. I'd kind of like to just go ahead with the moratorium until we can write up some code and get things organized.
Yeah, the way this resolution is stated, it's or, moratorium, or until we have something in place. And we didn't get to it really in our work session at 6 o'clock, but in the work session packet, if anyone picked that up, there is a sample ordinance written in there. So we already have a draft, and so I guess we could review that draft, or review the resolution recommending that gets approved by council at our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is August 4th. So even if we passed this resolution, we'd be moving forward rather quickly.
Okay.
So either way, we'd be moving forward rather quickly. If we deny this action which we requested, we are still going to move forward with an ordinance, or if we enact it, we're still going to move forward with an ordinance. I don't know if there's one has more weight than the other. I mean, we do have attorney recommendation. Commissioner DeMoss.
I think it's good to listen to the attorney recommendation, and that's where I would stand on denying the moratorium, but putting forward a resolution to approve, or at least process, or start the process of the applications that may already be in or come in during that time.
Right, with the, looking at the new draft ordinance
Exactly.
as an example of how we would handle it.
May I,
Yes, go ahead, Planner Kachilski.
that's good, yep.
Close.
Eric.
Since we did not get the opportunity to go over our draft, we would, bringing forward a resolution prior to that draft being brought forward, still gives us the opportunity to review the draft and move that forward in the next round.
Well, yeah, typically, we would have a resolution at our next meeting recommending the council enact an ordinance, and then they have a initial public hearing on it, or an introduction, and then the public hearing it takes, so it'd be 3 meetings for people to give public input on an ordinance on communication towers.
I'm confused, what are we trying to?
We're going to take a vote eventually on whether or not we want to deny or approve this resolution on a moratorium.
Correct. That one was easy.
Yes. The other one is they're going to bring forward an ordinance at our next meeting, a draft ordinance with a resolution for us to we'll review the ordinance, and then we'll decide if we want to pass the resolution recommending the council enact the ordinance.
And that would be the draft ordinance that we saw.
That was in our
Okay.
lay down, which some of you didn't get until the meeting, so I picked it up earlier, but it looks good.
It looks good, I read through it earlier.
Okay.
Okay, but the other part that we're discussing was doing something at this point in time so that if something comes up in the meantime, that we would review it based on the new
Right.
ordinances that were, or
Yep.
Right, for like with a final review.
right,
once the
so I mean,
ordinance
are we saying like we're gonna amend this resolution to say, put something on the books that allows us? I mean, I'm thinking is right now, if we do nothing, then somebody, then someone will go through.
We have 60 days according to the FCC to get the application process reviewed.
Okay.
So I
Again, not knowing all the little intricacies.
I think we're going to be within that window.
Sure.
We will be.
Okay.
That's awesome.
We will be.
We will be within that window, unless we're not having meetings, and then that would be an unusual
Well, based on that
situation.
information, I would go along with not approving this
And then can I
resolution.
just say one thing on
Yes.
that, on the review process? If somebody were to come in tomorrow and say, we want to build this tower, it still has to go through the process of being reviewed by community development planning. So there is a process for applications, and we do have leases that have co-locations too. So it is a process that's already done by us
we-
and the attorneys.
But based on that, would somebody be able to come in and says, we started the process before these ordinances, we want to stay with the old ordinances? That would not be an issue. Okay, that'd be my main concern.
Because of our 60 days.
Okay.
And in the places in zoning where it's allowed outright.
Yeah,
May I
and
ask-
I see your hand, Planner Assistant Bacon, but I wanted to give
Yeah.
the commission the chance to speak first.
I was just wondering if that applied to all of the zoning areas where it's allowed outright.
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Bacon.
There's just one thing that I'm unclear on in following this discussion. Is commission asking staff to bring forward a resolution for the next meeting stating that applications should be reviewed based on
No.
the draft code?
No.
Okay,
No.
that's not
No, that's not
being
it.
discussed.
Bring forth a resolution recommending council enact ordinance, blah, blah, blah,
Okay.
amending the Seward City Code with regards to communication towers.
Got it. That's
Something to that effect.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor in the positive, since that's how you make a motion. And if we want to approve the moratorium on the communications tower or until we bring something forward, you would vote yes. If you do not, you want to vote no. And so let's have a roll call vote, and if we're done with the discussion. Commissioner Hatfield and Commissioner Ambrosiani, did you have anything to add?
No, they,
I did. Is there a point in this process where we can get some expert assistance? Because it seemed like from the work session today, we didn't really know a lot about cell towers.
Okay. I don't know if we're gonna get anybody outside of the companies that put cell towers in. There was in the back of our packet today, coming soon to a neighborhood near you, and it was the most recent information that I have read to date on cell towers. The two links to the FCC communication were rather old, I believe, and I'd like more current information than that, but I think it's gonna require research on our own. I don't know if we're gonna get any other people in other than the companies that put them in. Community Development Director Wild?
And Mr. Ambrosiani, just so you know, the staff has located and discussed the draft. We've taken that from other cities and done the research that they've done and reviewed the research they did to make this draft. So we're not recreating the wheel, we're just making it better and have better tread, I guess we could say.
And the FCC, just to follow up, Mr. Ambrosiani, the FCC, as I read the draft ordinance, the city or the applicants for these towers would have to follow FCC guidelines, and I would hope that our FCC is giving us the most safe and healthy and environmentally sound information that they know of. That should be their job. So and that's in the ordinance, as in the draft ordinance, that they have to follow FCC guidelines. Okay, back to a roll call vote on the moratorium resolution 2020-09.
All right, roll call vote on resolution 2020-09. Commissioner Ambrosiani?
No?
Cease?
Yes.
I can't hear you?
Yes.
Okay. Hatfield?
no,
Dumas?
No.
Charbonneau?
Yes.
Swan.
Yes.
And Chair Eklund.
No.
Resolution 2020-09 fails.
Okay, that puts you on the hot seat, staff. Okay, that takes us to discussion of the proposed changes to the Kenai Peninsula Burro Subdivision Code, page 51. We received it from planner Scott Huff. Planner? I don't know. They're very short-staffed over at the Burro right now. He's the plating manager, but they don't have a planner right now, and Marcus Mueller is their acting planning department director. So, staff report on this, please.
Madam
Commissioner
Chair
Weil?
and Commission, I brought this forward and asked for it to be put in the packet just as a reference so the Planning and Zoning Commission understands that they are making some minor changes. They're not changes that I'm concerned about, and nor are any of the other communities in the borough. It does give some power back to the city in authorizing certain things that, you know, we have the power, but instead of us sending it to the borough and saying, now you make your recommendation, it will be here, and then we say, this is how it's gonna be type. That's the gist of it. A lot of grammatical errors, and to clarify, just the procedure of administration. And it's nothing, doesn't change the rulings, the code. It just makes it flow a little easier for the cities and the borough.
I'm looking at it, I think a lot of it has to do with clarifying plating information on street widths and building setbacks. Verbiage that was not in there, so it was hard to enforce as a commission because it wasn't in code that you shouldn't build your building in the setbacks and stuff like that. So there's no action required on this, it's just FYI, right?
Correct.
Okay. And any discussion on it? Hatfield or Ambrosiani, did you have any discussion on the borough code changes?
No, I didn't.
Thank you. Okay, informational items, the article on planning practice for 5G towers, which I mentioned, thank you for that, staff. FEMA Region 10 newsletter, the 2020 planning and zoning meeting schedule, let's look at that on page 127. And just August 4th is in 2 weeks. And will we have a quorum?
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
I'll be here. Hatfield will be here. Ambrosiani? All right. We're moving forward. We're having a meeting. Okay. I want to move on then to commissioner comments. And I will start with those on the phone. Commissioner Hatfield, do you have any comments?
No comments, please.
Thank you. Commissioner Ambrosiani?
No comments from me tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner DeMoss?
I just wanted to say thank you to the staff for adding the additional steps of the verification to get from all of the owners. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Commissioner Charbonneau?
I wanted to thank the administration for their hard work on this lovely packet and all the great information inside of it.
Commissioner Cease?
I agree with Commissioner
Charbonneau.
Sharman.
Vice Chair Swan?
I have a couple things. One is, I know in years past, we weren't able to do online meetings. Is that, and that was a state or a federal type of thing, it had to be in person. And I think this is great because I appreciate the idea that we could be out of town and still be able to make a meeting. But are we meeting federal codes, or is this just a COVID thing?
This is a COVID thing, but we are meeting code because we do have a quorum sitting within the room. But because of COVID, we are allowing our commissioners to call in. So we do meet code and we do meet the federal requirements right now.
Okay.
In the
In the future, to be able to respond, we would go back to the original. I mean, none of us know what the norm is anymore. But, in the future, we're hoping that we can go back to where we're all in the same room and having meetings.
Well, I'm not talking about us as commissioners specifically,
The
which is
public-
different than having people call in.
So,
Just a minute. Clarify, you're talking about any meeting held by the city, can you do call-in? Because in the past, we've been told that is not acceptable, or not legal.
And I'm talking about the commissioners making a vote.
Right.
As commissioners, and they're making a vote, but you're not here in person. In past years, I've brought that up because, I'd be out of state, and they're saying, you can't be part of a meeting because you're out of state, and nobody knows who's behind you giving you additional information, and so on and so forth. I'm just wondering, is this something that has been discussed
Because of COVID, we've had to change the way that we allow those rulings. And so that's why we allow them to be able to call in as a commissioner for now. It may not stay like that. It may not, depending on.
Hopefully it will. The other thing that I think Ms. Casagrande asked us to talk about was the fact that the whole idea of adding on other properties onto an existing application. And we've done that many, many times over the years. It's been kind of a standard. When somebody brings an application in, it starts a process. And at that time, if we think it's for this is my opinion, I believe I'm correct, but if we think it's for the public's good, we can add things into it because it's still a process, so we can get everything in. And we could actually bring that stuff in ourselves without having an application. So the fact that an application's coming in and we're bringing in, but I think we've always been cognizant of the original application's need for speed and so forth. But if somebody wants to bring an application forward, they have to pay the fees. If we bring something forward on our own to make changes, then there's no fees involved in that. But once those fees are done, they're done. And they don't really come back. But just to clarify that, we've done it, many, many times in the past. We've added additional things onto an existing process because it made sense, best for the community. Those are my only comments.
Okay, my comment is, kind of might be a question. There were comments regarding the rezoning from the public that this would take away the historic part of the buildings, but I believe you can have retail in a historic building, right?
Well, sure.
You don't have to tear the building down and put up something brand new fancy to be able to have a retail. So, I'm just saying, it doesn't, just that it goes to Central Business District doesn't mean that all the historic buildings will be taken down. And again, I just really appreciate the addition of the older plat maps to follow the timeline and the extra work that went into all of this. And we're now at the point where I believe, have someone that wants us to call them for citizens' comments.
Yes, Carol Griswold. First, Christine Casagrande.
Okay, yes.
And then Carol Griswold, both signed up for that second.
And these individuals will have 5 minutes to speak.
Hello, Christine.
Hi, Christine. This is Eric. You're on with the Planning and Zoning Commission. Could you
Thank
state
you.
your name and address, and then you'll have 5 minutes?
Thank you so much, Christine Casagrande, inside city limits. Thank you for your time and consideration and hard work in taking my application into consideration. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will leave it there since I know you guys have a long night. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next caller, please.
That is Carol Griswold.
Hello, this is Carol.
Hi, this is Eric Kozelski. You're on with the Planning and Zoning Commission. Would you mind stating your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes for your comments?
Carol Griswold, City Limits. It was very frustrating to be on the list for public hearing comments, and here I was not able to contact anyone to notify P&Z of this error. While I appreciate that all cell phones are off, perhaps one community development staff cell phone could be noted as available in such cases. I am, of course, very disappointed with the Commission's recommendation to Council to approve 2020-06. The 2020-06 resolution packet was very incomplete and confusing. I had to make notes of who owned which lots, who commented, and where their property was. The Lot 2 owner's situation was also very confusing, but will now be corrected in the future to contact all owners and get all signatures on applications. Acreage with and without Lot 2 was given, but there was no mention that property on the west side was contiguous and how zoning can be amended. The discussion on spot zoning was incomplete. According to the 1996 Alaska Supreme Court ruling in Griswold versus City of Homer, decisions on spot zoning must discuss consistency with the amendment with the comprehensive plan, the size of the area to be rezoned, benefits, detriments to the owners, adjacent landowners, and community, impacts of increased traffic, and changes to the character of the neighborhood. A common spot zoning situation is one in which an amendment is initiated at the request of an owner who seeks to establish a use that is prohibited by the existing zoning, as in this case. The Commission did not consider all these factors. I find that the Commission did not adequately review this land use amendment or articulate reasons for its decision. I urge the Planning and Zoning Commission to work with the new law firm to update Title 15 in conformance with the Alaska Supreme Court 1996 ruling. I would also be very interested in having definitions provided in Title 15 for contiguous, abutting, adjoining, adjacent, and kitty corner or catter-cornered properties. The online American Planning Association Planners Dictionary defines contiguous as properties sharing a property line with other variations. These are important terms to understand how zoning can be amended. Title 15 Land Uses Allowed table desperately needs to be revised. Our zones currently allow archaic, myriad, and inappropriate uses that cause endless issues. The comp plan needs to consider what is already on the ground and worth preserving. Destroying neighborhoods, especially in the historic district, based on expanding the flawed colored zoning areas, ignores the long-time residential uses and beautiful landscaping. The point is anything but industrial. I hope this zoning can be revisited to recognize the incredible natural area it is, with bald eagle nests, spruce hemlock forest, anadromous stream, beach, and wetlands. P&Z and the community need to step back to reevaluate what makes Seward so special and such a desirable place to live. What would attract more people to want to live and work here? What do we value? What do we want to preserve and protect? What do we want Seward to look like in another 100 years? The future is in your and our hands. Thank you.
Thank you. And if there is no other notices, I will close citizens' comments. Any commissioner administration response to citizens' comments? Commissioner Hatfield or Charbonneau? Ambrosiani? Sorry.
No comment.
Thank you. Sorry, Nathaniel. At this time, we are at adjournment. Is there a motion?
Amen.
Motion for adjournment.
Commissioner Charbonneau, motion for adjournment, so ordered.